in seismic. We talk about earthquake and all. I think I don't want to say much about his background. Dr. Vengala, please start with your presentation. Time is too short, and we have got two experts panelists who will comment on your presentations. So, Dr. Vengala, please.
Thank you, Kameshji. Thank you for the Indo-Taiwan Forum. Let me share my presentation quickly.
Yeah.
Hope you can see my presentation. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about bamboo standards in India and issues and opportunities. So one very quick fact in regard with the Indian bamboos, I would like to mention that based on my last 15 years experience, selection and grading treatment plays very important role, particularly in India. Almost 70% of effort you should put on selecting, grading, and treating. 30% is involving in joinery, design, and construction. In India, common people consider bamboo as a temporary and unreliable due to various reasons like limited natural durability, difficulties in joining, and lack of structural design data and exclusion from building codes. In 2005, National Building Code of India included bamboo as one of the building material. In Part 6 of Section 3B, it included bamboo as one of the building material. So today's topic is on standardization. So it is very much needed to accept as a sustainable structural material, both by designers and policymakers. Standards definitely provide a means to maintain, one is the product quality and then test procedures it will give. And it will also serve as a common language for defining quality and product safety. So initially we have like Indian standard methods for round bamboo and split bamboo. And then there is an absence of standard building code. As I mentioned, in 2005, they've included. So these are the standards we have, specification for bamboo tent poles, test for round bamboos, split bamboos, and then composite bamboo composites. We have a few standards, and also preservation and general glossary of terms, and also bamboo-based door shutters. Also, we have it, and we have a National Building Code of India. I'll touch upon each of the standard quickly. So bamboo tent poles, this is IS 7344. It talks about the, initially we have like for tents and other things, for temporary structures, these poles are being used. So the specification of these poles are included in this particular standard, particularly for walls, standing and ridge portions. And for other codes like round bamboo and split bamboo, we have IS 6874 and 8242. These were revised once in 2008. Very interesting round bamboo, how to test the bamboo, very important. We have seen in Brazilian professor, his presentation to test the test also included in the code. This is how you will test it. So all these values were mentioned in National Building Code of India 2016. You can see various species. One in dry condition and another one is in green condition. All the values were mentioned in National Building Code of India 2016. And even the Grading also done based on its structural properties, which were given in National Building Code of India. So very important point I would like to mention here is shear generally parallel to grain they have tested in the code, but we have tested a typical procedure wherein we have made a slit, and then because shear is a very important parameter in bamboo joinery. When you connect the different bamboos with nuts and bolts, shear is one very important parameter. This how this test was proposed for the shear test. The average value what we got is here. Typical ranges is from 4 to 11 MPa. So one very important test procedure we have developed, this is a free vibration test wherein you can create a fixity on one side, you can tap it on the other side. The natural frequency or the accelerometers we mount, and then we can measure the frequency. Based on that, you can measure the modulus of elasticity of the bamboo. And even the full scale testing of bamboo columns are missing, and wherein we have tested single and double columns, and various species data is required because many of the architects or engineers, if they wanted to readily do it at the site, it is very important to have this information. And next is for split bamboos, typically moisture content specific gravity, static bending and compression parallel to grain was given in this particular standard. So the dimensions of the strips were given, like length is like 14 times the depth plus 5 centimeter. The dimensions were given in this particular standard. This is about the round bamboo and split bamboo. When it comes to the preservation, very important, as I mentioned, almost the construction involves preservation and then grading and then the construction. I'm coming to the second part, that is the preservation. We have IS 9096 and 1902. One is for structural and another one for non-structural. And we also, IS 707 gives a glossary of terms related to bamboo. So 707 gives you what is the basic definitions of bamboo clump and culm, and then also some of the bamboo joinery, joints, connections, and this was given in IS 707. When it comes to the IS 9096, what are the various materials one can use to preserve the bamboo were given, starting from coal tar creosote to boric acid borax to copper zinc naphthalene. So various preservatives were given in this IS standard. And also how much absorption a particular pole or a green bamboo or dry bamboo it has to take has been given in this particular IS 9096. And what are the various methods you have to follow, hot and cold, dip, diffusion or brochery were given clearly in this IS 9096. When it comes to the non-structural purpose of the bamboo, IS 1902, they have given the modified brochery process. And also most of the non-structural purpose, either you go by soaking or by applying the preservative by brush coating. So this is the difference between the structural and non-structural preservative treatment. So when it comes to the composites, in IPIRT has done a lot of work wherein I have worked as a former scientist. So these codes were brought in particularly for the composites, starting from matte board to matte veneer composite to corrugated sheet to bamboo jute corrugated sheet. These are the IS codes were given. Typically, slivers were weaved into different weaving patterns, and then bamboo mats were made and then dipped into resin. This was subjected to a pressure and a temperature in a hot press. If it is a die is a flat, then you get a flat board, and then if it is a corrugated die, you get a corrugated sheet. Coming to the specification of the bamboo mat board, you have a number of dimensions that were given, different dimensions, and hot pressing I have mentioned. And the moisture content after hot pressing, it should be between 5 to 15%. And the temperature what you have to maintain is 140 degrees centigrade in hot press. And the pressure is between 1.5 newtons per mm square to 2.2 newtons per mm square. So the time also depends on the thickness of the board. These are the specifications that were given in the Indian standard for the bamboo mat. When it comes to the bamboo mat veneer composites, you include veneer, wood veneer in between And then the slivers thickness is between 0.5 to 0.6 mm, and the width is 5 to 15 mm. You can make these vinyl composite boards. Thickness varies from 3 to almost 25 mm. When it comes to the bamboo mat corrugated sheet specification, IS 15476, you can see the different dimensions and then the depth of corrugations and pitch corrugations that were given. So these were soaked and then again hot pressed, as I mentioned earlier. So these are the properties requirements of this corrugated sheet, starting from the density to permeability to water absorption to resistance to fire. So this is the falling weight test, wherein 6 kgs, around 6 kgs of weight is dropped from a certain height, and also flame penetration. You give a flame and then it has to withstand, and permeability 20 centimeter depth water is stagnated on the roofing sheet, and then we will measure the is there any dipping. So these are the tests. These were the specifications given in IS for the Indian standard for the bamboo mat corrugated sheet. Coming to the bamboo jute composite corrugated sheet, you have two types. One is corrugated and then semi-corrugated, which was given, the dimensions were given. So this was given in the IS 15972. The jute, what you're incorporating, it should have a minimum of 220 GSM. That is the, the thickness, minimum thickness of the jute. And these were the requirements of the bamboo jute composite as per IS Indian standard. Coming to the National Building Code of India 2016, so there was a relation between moisture content to crushing stress was given. You have to season the bamboo to a moisture content of 20% and less, which gives the required strength to the any of the bamboo. Freshly cut bamboo having a lot of moisture, like 60, 70%. So you have to season it. You have to bring down the moisture content to less than 20%. And National Building Code of India also gives the information about various truss patterns. One is with the gusset plate, nuts and bolt, and also the regular pin-ended joint trusses. The information was given. It is very interesting to note that when you compare this solid bamboo pin with the mild steel bolt, which is connected to these members. So the solid bamboo pin having the 56% of the mild steel bolt. This was the information given in National Building Code of India. So various joinery methods were given, and also the treatment, how much, what are the chemicals you have to use were given in the National Building Code of India. And also the safe working stress of bamboo mat board and mat veneer composites were also given, and also how to protect the bamboo from the concrete using the steel tube were given in the National Building Code. This was the typical wall structure that was given, included in the National Building Code of India, cement mortar based structural walling system. Very interesting information was given with bamboo as the reinforcement and tiles. The thermal comfort inside the building is improved when you use the bamboo as a reinforcement or when you use the thatch roof. You can see the difference between a AC sheet to thatch roof with bamboo reinforcement, 5.47 to 1.69. You can clearly see the difference in the U values, thermal comfort values. So having understood the codes, some of the work, which is very important to know or do in particularly the performance of the elements. So element testing is very important. These are the cyclic load test, which has to be carried out whenever you are going for a different wall structure. So as a part of thesis, we have also conducted various element based testings, particularly wall framing, trusses, cyclic load tests, and so on. This was as a part of my fellowship. I have carried out the cyclic load tests on wall elements at Colorado State University, USA. So we've used actuator, and then we conducted in-plane cyclic load experiments. wherein the shear displacement, and as a professor from Indonesia was rightly mentioning about the drift was within limits when we numerically model the the house. So the seismic performance of the house is then given, wherein this was a part of my thesis. I have worked on seismic performance of the house, wherein you can see the building model was tested on shock table. Shock table wherein the pendulum is hitting the table. So here for the professor, as he mentioned rightly, like the fundamental natural frequency of the house is around 13 hertz. We have made the table such that the fundamental natural frequency of the table as 130 has 10 times more natural frequency than the building. So the tests were carried out on the building. I would like to show you the typical video wherein the test was, the carried out. Uh, the pendulum hits the table. We keep on measuring the various, the crack progress and so on. This was the crack pattern we have observed after the impacts. So some of the traditional based houses were also tested on shock table, wherein we could observe the problems, and then we suggested the recommendations where to improve and which is the area one has to improve. This is very, very important when you are testing for a full scale models, particularly in the bamboo reinforced structures. So this was the shake table test. This I have already showed. This is the twisting of the house model you can see after the test. So it is also very important. New forms are coming up. These are to be incorporated in standards. Particularly, this is one student work I have carried out, particularly tensegrity structures, the foldable structures, wherein one has to work. This is a basic model. So based on this particular small model, we have actually numerically modeled a typical table, and then you can see the tensegrity structure. So this was initially modeled in Abacus, and then we understood the properties of these. So this particular table can be extended to a bigger structure like pergolas and other structures. You can see the view of this particular tensegrity structure. And reinforced concrete, we always have a doubt. Bamboo versus concrete. Is it love or hate relationship? One has to understand. So some of the information is given in bamboo National Building Code of India, particularly the strength characteristics between mild steel, bamboo, and then concrete. So these values has to be upgraded because of the quality of the bamboo we are getting, and then the concrete quality also increasing. So this was the work, very important, particularly when you're pouring the concrete, particularly for the reinforced bamboo structures. When you vibrate it, this entire skeleton of the bamboo will get disturbed. Self-compacting concrete is one such solution wherein you can pour the concrete, particularly for the bamboo reinforced concrete structures. And we have done one of the park bench using the bamboo as a reinforcement. And also with flat roof applications, one can use the bamboo as a reinforcement. You need to understand the behavior of the structure. So with that, thank you. This was one of the recent structure I have mentored in the part of the Goa. Thank you.